Captain Min-jun Park stood on the bridge of the Defiant Explorer, watching the strange object on his main screen. The ship's sensors had picked up the damaged vessel 3 hours ago, floating dead in space near the edge of known territory. "What do you think, Commander?" Park asked his tactical officer. Commander So-young Kim studied her readings. "It's definitely alien. The hull design is nothing like anything in our databases. But whoever built it knows their engineering. Even damaged, the power systems are still running." Dr. Jaewon Lee looked up from his science station. "I'm reading life signs. Weak, but alive. Should we bring them aboard?" Park nodded. "Prep the medical bay. Let's see what we're dealing with." 20 minutes later, the rescue team brought 3 alien survivors to the ship's medical center. They were tall, thin beings with pale blue skin and large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. The healthiest one wore what appeared to be diplomatic robes. "I am Ambassador Keth Var of the Zephyrian Collective," the alien said in heavily accented but understandable English. "You have saved our lives, but you have also doomed yourselves." Dr. Lee finished treating a cut on the ambassador's arm. "Doomed? That seems a bit dramatic. What happened to your ship?" Kethvar's large eyes filled with terror. "The Galactic Empire. Their third conquest fleet found us. We barely escaped with our lives." He grabbed Dr. Lee's arm with a shaking hand. "You must run. You must flee this system immediately. They will come for you too." Ram. 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 Captain Park pulled up a chair and sat down. "Tell us about this empire." "You do not understand," Kethvar said, his voice rising. "The Galactic Empire has conquered 3 entire arms of the galaxy. They have weapons that can shatter moons. Their fleets number in the thousands. No one can stand against them." Commander Kim leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "How many ships in this third conquest fleet?" "Over 800 warships," Kethvar whispered. "Each one capable of destroying entire cities with a single shot. They gave us the standard ultimatum: surrender or be destroyed. We chose to run." "Smart choice," Dr. Lee said, checking his medical scanner. "Your people seem peaceful. We are traders, diplomats, scholars." Kethvar explained. "We have no weapons of war. But the Empire does not care. They destroy or enslave every species they encounter. The glass cities of Andromeda Sector were melted to slag in minutes. The crystal spires of the vegan Commonwealth fell in a single day. Dozens of civilizations, all gone." Captain Park stroked his chin thoughtfully. "And they're heading this way?" "Yes, their scouts will arrive within hours. You must evacuate this system. Your people must be warned. The Empire shows no mercy to anyone." The 3 humans exchanged glances. Dr. Lee went back to treating the other injured Zephyrians. Commander Kim checked her tactical displays. Captain Park just nodded slowly. "We'll look into it," Park said calmly. Kethvar stared at him. "Look into it? Did you not hear what I said? The Empire has never been defeated. Their technology is beyond anything you can imagine. They will arrive with hundreds of ships and demand your immediate surrender." "Sounds inconvenient," Dr. Lee commented, not looking up from his patient. "Inconvenient?" Kethvar's voice cracked. "They will enslave your entire species." Commander Kim glanced at her readouts. "Captain, we're getting some long-range sensor contacts. Multiple ships approaching from the outer system." "Empire scouts?" Park asked. "Unknown configuration, but given the timing, probably," Kim replied. "Want me to prep the weapons?" "Not yet. Let's see what they want first." Kethvar looked back and forth between the humans in amazement. "You are not afraid. Why are you not afraid? Every species in the galaxy fears the Empire. They are unstoppable." Dr. Lee finally looked up. "Ambassador, have you ever dealt with humans before?" "No. Your species is new to us. We had only recently learned of your existence through trade networks. Armament. Well, That explains it, Dr. Lee said with a smile. We don't really do the whole fear thing very well. But you must understand, Kethvar insisted. The Empire's technology is centuries ahead of most species. Their ships are massive. Their weapons are devastating. Their armor cannot be penetrated. Captain Park stood up and walked to the viewport. In the distance, tiny lights were becoming visible. The approaching fleet. How big are their ships usually? The largest dreadnoughts are 15 kilometers long, Kethvar said. Mountain-sized vessels bristling with weapons. 15 kilometers. Park mused. That's pretty big. 2. Each one carries enough firepower to level a continent. Kethvar added desperately. Continent leveling, Park repeated. Got it. Commander Kim looked at her captain. Should I call this in to command? Might be a good idea. Let them know. We've got some visitors coming. Dr. Lee finished with his patients and joined them at the viewport. So these Empire folks, they just show up and demand surrender? Always, Kethvar said. They give every species the same choice. Submit or die. No negotiations. No mercy. Rude, Dr. Lee observed. Definitely poor manners, Commander Kim agreed. Kethvar looked at the three humans as if they were insane. This is not about manners. This is about survival. The Empire has crushed every resistance they have ever faced. They have technology that can manipulate gravity, weapons that fire dark matter, shields that deflect any attack. Dark matter weapons, Park nodded. That's interesting from an engineering perspective. Captain, Kim called from her station. I count 47 ships incoming. Definitely military configuration. They'll be in communication range in about 30 minutes. Perfect timing for dinner, Dr. Lee said, checking his watch. Ambassador Kethvar fell back into his chair, staring at the humans in disbelief. You are all mad. Completely insane. The most powerful military force in galactic history is approaching, and you are thinking about dinner. Well, Captain Park said reasonably, we can't really do much until they get here and tell us what they want. Might as well eat something. Besides, Commander Kim added, fighting on an empty stomach is never a good idea. Dr. Lee nodded in agreement. Low blood sugar makes you cranky during negotiations. The ambassador looked out at the approaching lights, then back at the humans. In his long life, he had met many species. He had seen the proud warriors of Kepler Prime face the Empire with courage and fall within hours. He had watched the brilliant scientists of the Rigel Consortium try to reason with Imperial forces and be vaporized for their efforts. But he had never encountered a species that responded to an existential threat by discussing meal schedules. Perhaps, he said quietly, your species is different than I thought. Captain Park smiled. Ambassador, you have no idea. Admiral Vex Tar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the pathetic little vessel on his main screen. 847 ships of the Third Conquest Fleet surrounded the single alien craft in perfect battle formation. The display of power never failed to break the spirit of inferior species. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we are in range to transmit the standard ultimatum. Excellent. Begin transmission. The view screen activated, showing Admiral Vex Tar in his full ceremonial armor. Behind him, holographic displays showed the awesome might of the Imperial fleet. This was psychological warfare at its finest. Attention, primitive vessel, Vex Tar began, his voice carrying the authority of 1,000 conquered worlds. I am Admiral Vex Tar of the Galactic Empire's Third Conquest Fleet. You are now within Imperial space and subject to Imperial law. On the human ship, Captain Park sat in his command chair, casually eating an apple. Lieutenant Hyun-Woo Choi handled communications while Commander Kim reviewed the Empire's fleet positioning with mild interest. You will immediately shut down your engines and prepare for boarding. Admiral Vex Tar continued. Your species will be processed for Imperial service. Resistance is futile. Compliance is mandatory. Captain Park finished chewing and looked at Lieutenant Choi. Are we supposed to respond to this? Probably polite to say something back, Choi replied. Admiral Vextar was just getting started. Let me make the consequences clear. The Empire has conquered the crystal cities of Andromeda Sector. We reduced them to glass in 17 minutes. The proud warriors of the vegan Commonwealth lasted exactly 4 hours and 12 minutes against our fleet. He seems very proud of his timekeeping, Dr. Lee observed from his station. The fallen spires of Kepler Prime still burn from our passage. Vextar continued. 63 species have knelt before Imperial might. Your choice is simple. Surrender now and serve the Empire, or be destroyed and scattered across the void. Captain Park raised his hand slightly. Can I respond now? Or is there more? Lieutenant Choi opened the channel. Admiral, you're connected to the alien vessel. Admiral Vextar waited for the usual begging, pleading, or desperate attempts at negotiation. Instead, he heard a calm voice say, "No thank you. We're good." The bridge of the Eternal Dominion fell silent. General Mordak, the fleet's ground forces commander, leaned forward. What did they say? They said no thank you, the communications officer reported, checking his equipment twice. Admiral Vextar stared at the screen. In 3 decades of conquest, no species had ever simply declined imperial demands like they were refusing a dinner invitation. Perhaps they did not understand, Vextar said carefully. Alien vessel, you will surrender immediately. This is not a request. Yeah, we got that part, came the response. Thanks for the offer, but we'll pass. Commander Kim's voice joined the conversation. Admiral, do you have anything actually challenging to propose? Because this ultimatum thing seems pretty basic. General Mordak's mandibles clicked in confusion. I believe they are, Admiral Vextar replied, his voice deadly quiet. Alien vessel, you clearly do not comprehend your situation. Allow me to educate you. The Admiral activated a holographic display showing the Empire's conquests. These are the burned remains of the Altarian homeworld. Population, 12 billion. Resistance time, 6 hours. This is the asteroid field that was once the Centauri defense grid. They thought their technology could protect them. I won. On the human ship, Dr. Lee looked at the displays with academic interest. Those explosions patterns are actually quite elegant. Good use of gravitational compression. Lieutenant Choi nodded. Nice cinematography, too. Very dramatic lighting. Gnosis. Over that. Admiral Vextar's eye twitched. You find the destruction of civilizations entertaining? Not really, Captain Park replied. But you seem to put a lot of effort into the presentation. Very professional. This is not a presentation, Vextar roared. This is a demonstration of power. We have weapons that can shatter moons. Moon-shattering weapons. Dr. Lee mused. That could be useful for asteroid mining. Much more efficient than drilling. We are not miners, General Mordak interrupted. We are the most feared military force in the galaxy. Oh, Commander Kim said with mild disappointment. That's too bad. Mining is actually quite profitable these days. Admiral Vex's tar felt his carefully maintained composure beginning to crack. You will witness our power firsthand. Fleet Commander, target the nearest asteroid and demonstrate our planetary siege cannon. The largest ship in the fleet, a 15-kilometer dreadnought, turned its massive weapons toward a floating rock the size of a small moon. Energy gathered at the cannon's muzzle, building to an intensity that had leveled mountain ranges. The beam fired, and the asteroid exploded in a brilliant flash of light and debris. Aboard the human ship, the crew watched with polite attention. When the light faded, Lieutenant Choi began a slow clap. Commander Kim joined in. Soon, the entire bridge was applauding. Very nice, Captain Park said into the communication channel. Good technique. Clean destruction pattern, Do you do birthday parties? Admiral Vextar stared at his screen in complete bewilderment. Birthday parties? You know, special occasions, Dr. Lee explained helpfully. Kids love explosions. Very popular for celebrations. General Mordak turned to his admiral. What is a birthday party? I have no idea, Vextar replied, beginning to question his own sanity. Lieutenant Choi consulted his tablet. According to our cultural database, many species enjoy controlled explosions during recreational activities. Your timing was excellent. Very festive. We are not entertainers, Admiral Vextar bellowed. We are conquerors. We rule 1,000 worlds. That sounds exhausting, Commander Kim observed. All that paperwork. Managing 1,000 different planetary governments. Yikes. We do not manage them, General Mordak explained proudly. We destroy their resistance and enslave the survivors. Oh, Dr. Lee said, his tone becoming slightly disapproving. That's not very nice. The casual criticism hit Admiral Vextar harder than any weapon could have. For the first time in his military career, he felt the need to justify imperial policy to his victims. It is efficient, he said defensively. Quick. Clean. No prolonged suffering. Have you considered therapy? Captain Park asked seriously. There are much healthier ways to work through aggression issues. Admiral Vextar turned to his tactical officer. Sensors show a single vessel, Admiral. No weapons detected. No shields raised. No defensive posture at all. One ship, Vextar muttered. They have one ship, and they are giving us mental health advice. Captain, Lieutenant Choi said to Park. Should I mention that lunch is ready? The chef made that spicy noodle soup you like. Excellent timing, Park replied. Admiral, we need to break for lunch. These conquering discussions work up an appetite. We'll be back in about an hour if you want to continue this conversation. The transmission cut off, leaving the entire Imperial fleet staring at empty space. General Mordak spoke first. Sir, what just happened? Admiral Vextar sat heavily in his command chair. I believe we just had our galactic conquest politely postponed for a meal break. Should we attack while they eat? Admiral Vextar considered this. In his entire career, no enemy had ever been so utterly unconcerned about Imperial might that they would stop to eat lunch in the middle of receiving an ultimatum. Either these aliens were completely insane, or they knew something he did not. No, he said finally. Let them finish their meal. I want to see what they do next. Deep down, for the first time in decades, Admiral Vextar was genuinely curious about his opponents. And that worried him more than any weapon ever could. Admiral Vextar had waited exactly 1 hour and 7 minutes. His patience, already thin from the morning's bizarre conversation, had completely evaporated. Sub-Admiral Crixton, he called to his tactical coordinator. Initiate attack pattern 7. Use 1/4 of our fleet. Disable their vessel for boarding. Sir, Crixton replied. Attack pattern 7 is designed for heavily armed opponents. Against a single, unshielded ship. Just do it. 200 Imperial warships moved into attack formation. Their energy weapons, capable of melting through any known armor, powered up to minimal settings. No point in completely vaporizing the strange aliens before they could be questioned. On the human ship, Chief Engineer Sujin Yang looked up from her lunch. Captain, we've got multiple weapon locks. They're charging some kind of coherent energy system. How many ships? Captain Park asked, finishing his soup. About 200. Looks like they're being gentle with us. Commander Kim checked her displays. Energy output suggests they're trying to disable rather than destroy. Considerate of them. The R-Forced. When C1. The R-Forced, 1C1. 1C1. End quote. When C1. Should I raise shields? Chief Yang asked. Might as well. No point in making this too easy for them. The Imperial fleet fired in perfect synchronization. Brilliant beams of energy that had melted through the hulls of countless enemy ships struck the human vessel from dozens of angles simultaneously. The beams bounced off harmlessly. On the flagship's bridge, every Imperial officer stared at their instruments in confusion. "Weapons status report," Admiral Vextar demanded. "All weapons fired successfully, sir," the tactical officer replied. "Direct hits confirmed. Energy transfer. 0. No damage to target vessel. 0 damage? Check your equipment." "Equipment functioning normally, Admiral. Their hull appears to be completely energy resistant." Admiral Vextar felt a cold sensation in his stomach. In 30 years of conquest, Imperial energy weapons had never failed to penetrate enemy armor. "Open a channel to the alien vessel." Captain Park appeared on screen, still holding a spoon. "Hello again, Admiral. Nice light show. Very colorful. How did you deflect our weapons?" Vextar asked bluntly. "Oh, that," Park said casually. "Basic energy shielding. We developed it a few centuries back. But honestly, we found it kind of boring." Chief Engineer Yang joined the conversation. "The reactive armor adapts to any energy frequency in real time. Your weapons actually made our shields stronger. Thanks for that." "Impossible," General Mordak interrupted. "Our weapons fire concentrated dark matter streams. No known technology can deflect them. Dark matter weapons are actually pretty clever, Doctor." Lee's voice came from off-screen. "We went through a dark matter phase about 200 years ago. Fun times. Very messy, though." Admiral Vextar turned to his weapons officer. "Switch to kinetic projectiles. Maximum velocity." "Sir, that seems—" "Do it." The fleet launched a barrage of solid projectiles, each one moving at a significant fraction of light speed. On the human ship, automated defense systems calmly swatted the incoming weapons aside like annoying insects. "Kinetic weapons, too," Chief Yang observed. "They're really trying hard." Captain Park sighed. "I suppose we should call for backup. This is getting a bit one-sided." "Backup?" Admiral Vextar repeated. "Just to be fair," Park explained. "Hold on a moment." He turned away from the screen. "Communications. Patch me through to the Soul's Pride." Soul's Pride responding, came a new voice. "This is Captain Young-Ho Shin. Sorry I'm late. I was finishing dinner." A new ship materialized out of hyperspace near the human vessel. Where the Defiant Explorer was clearly a science ship, the Soul's Pride was obviously military. Sleek, angular, and bristling with weapons that looked almost organic in their design. "Just one more ship?" Subadmiral Crixton asked hopefully. "Let's see what they do with it," Admiral Vextar replied. Captain Shin's voice came over the communications channel. "Minjun, what's the situation?" "About 800 Imperial ships demanding our surrender," Park replied conversationally. "They've tried energy weapons and kinetics. No luck so far. Want me to handle this? I brought the training weapons." "Training weapons?" Admiral Vex. Tar interrupted. "Non-lethal systems," Captain Shin explained helpfully. "We use them for military exercises. Can't have our people actually killing each other during weekend war games." "Weekend war games?" General Mordak whispered. The Soul's Pride began firing. Unlike the spectacular energy displays of the Imperial fleet, the human weapons were almost subtle. Thin beams of light that seemed to barely glow as they reached their targets. Imperial ships throughout the fleet suddenly went dark. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply disabled. Their power systems shut down. Their weapons went offline. Their engines stopped functioning. Within minutes, half the Third Conquest fleet was drifting helplessly in space. "What did you do to our ships?" Admiral Vextar demanded. "Electromagnetic pulse, adjusted for your specific technology," Captain Shin replied. "Your crews are fine. Life support is still running. But your weapons and engines will need about 6 hours to reboot." 6 hours? Could be longer if you don't follow the proper restart sequence. There's a manual in your ship's database now. We uploaded it. Dr. Lee's voice rejoined the conversation. We've been watching your empire's expansion for a while. Very educational. Like a nature documentary. Watching us? Oh yes, Chief Engineer Yang added. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We had to develop really good defensive technology to keep from accidentally wiping ourselves out. You fight each other? Admiral Vextar asked, grasping for any information that might explain what was happening. Constantly, Captain Park confirmed. It's fun. Great exercise. Keeps the technology sharp. But we got bored with actually killing people, so we figured out how to have proper wars without permanent consequences. You have wars for entertainment? Among other things, Captain Shin said. Competition, testing new equipment, settling philosophical disputes. Last month, Earth and Mars had a lovely little conflict over mining rights. Very spirited. Nobody died. Everybody learned something. And we all went out for drinks afterward. Sub-Admiral Crixton turned to his admiral with a look of growing horror. Sir, we're facing a species that treats galactic-scale warfare as recreational activity. Admiral Vextar was beginning to understand the scope of his problem. How advanced is your military technology? Oh, this isn't military tech, Chief Engineer Yang said cheerfully. This is just civilian defensive systems. We save the military stuff for serious threats. What do you consider a serious threat? Natural disasters, mostly, Dr. Lee replied. Stellar collapse, black hole formation, dimensional instabilities, that sort of thing. Dimensional instabilities? Long story. We had some issues with experimental physics a few decades back. Very educational, but quite dangerous. We learned to be more careful about tearing holes in space-time. More human ships began arriving. Not warships, these looked like civilian vessels, cargo haulers, and what appeared to be a cruise ship. Reinforcements? Admiral Vextar asked weakly. Just the neighbors, Captain Park said. Word got out that we had visitors. Everyone wanted to meet you. A new voice joined the communication channel. Hello there. This is the passenger liner Busan Dream. We brought tour groups. The folks in Cabin C really wanted to see a galactic empire up close. Admiral Vextar looked around his bridge at his confused and demoralized officers. The most powerful military force in galactic history had just been casually disabled by what the humans called training weapons. And now they were apparently a tourist attraction. Admiral, General Mordak said quietly, I think we may have made a mistake. Yes, Admiral Vextar agreed, watching elderly human tourists taking pictures of his disabled fleet through the windows of their cruise ship. I believe we have. Admiral Mireille Kwan arrived on the scene 6 hours later aboard her flagship, the New Horizon. Unlike the previous human ships, this one was massive, nearly the size of an Imperial dreadnought but designed with flowing curves instead of aggressive angles. It looked more like a floating city than a warship. Sorry for the delay, Admiral Kwan announced over the communication channel. I was attending a cultural symposium on Kepler Station. Dr. Park, are you available for a diplomatic consultation? Dr. Park? Admiral Vextar asked, looking at the man who had been introduced as Captain Park. Cultural anthropologist, Park explained. Captain is just my part-time job. I do exploration work when I'm not studying civilizations. Admiral Kwan continued her transmission. I understand we have some cultural misunderstandings to resolve. Admiral Vextar, I would like to invite you and your senior staff aboard for a cultural exchange session. A what? General Mordak whispered. Cultural exchange, Admiral Kwan repeated patiently. We'll share information about our respective societies. Very enlightening. We can also repair your disabled ships. While we talk. Admiral Vextar looked around at his powerless fleet. Half his ships were still dark, their crews working frantically to follow the restart procedures the humans had provided. His tactical position was hopeless. but his curiosity was overwhelming. "You want to repair our ships?" "Of course," Admiral Kwon replied. "Basic hospitality. Can't have guests stranded in space. We are not guests. We are conquerors." "Not very successfully," Dr. Sung-ho Park observed, joining the conversation. He was apparently a different Park than the captain. But that's perfectly normal for young civilizations. Most species go through an aggressive expansion phase. "Young civilizations?" Admiral Vextar's voice rose. "The Empire is 3,000 years old." "Exactly," Dr. Park said kindly. "Barely out of your planetary adolescence. You'll grow out of it." 2 hours later, Admiral Vextar found himself sitting in a comfortable chair aboard the New Horizon, holding a cup of something the humans called coffee. Across from him, Dr. Park was showing holographic displays of human history with the enthusiasm of a university professor. "Your species is fascinating," Dr. Park said. "Very typical aggressive expansion pattern. Look at this data from your conquest of the Rigel system. Classic intimidation tactics, overwhelming force display, demand for immediate surrender." "It works," Admiral Vextar said defensively. "Oh, absolutely. Very effective against species in their cooperative phase. But notice the pattern: you only target peaceful civilizations. The Empire carefully avoids any species with advanced military capabilities." General Mordock, who had also been invited aboard, shifted uncomfortably. "We are strategic in our selections. You pick on smaller kids," Dr. Park translated cheerfully. "Completely understandable. Most young species do the same thing." Admiral Kwon joined them, carrying a tablet displaying what appeared to be psychological profiles. "Dr. Park has been studying your empire for quite some time. His analysis is quite thorough." "Long. You have been studying us?" Admiral Vextar asked. "For about 40 years. Dr. Park confirmed. "Your expansion pattern followed textbook examples from our own history. We went through a very similar phase ourselves." "Humans were conquerors?" "Oh my, yes," Admiral Kwon said with a laugh. "Terrible conquerors. We spent centuries fighting wars over everything: territory, resources, religious beliefs, political systems. We even had wars over trade routes and fishing rights." Dr. Park activated another display. "This is Earth in the 21st century. We had enough nuclear weapons to destroy our planet dozens of times over. Use them too, though only twice in anger. After that, we realized we needed better conflict resolution methods." "You had weapons that could destroy your own world?" General Mordock asked, horrified. "Several different types," Admiral Kwon confirmed. "Nuclear, biological, chemical. We were very creative about finding ways to kill each other. But we were equally creative about finding ways to survive our own weapons. That's when we developed really advanced defensive technology," Dr. Park explained. "Had to, or we would have made ourselves extinct during weekend conflicts." Admiral Vextar set down his coffee cup. "Weekend conflicts?" "Small wars," Admiral Kwon clarified. "Usually lasted only a few days. Corporate disputes, territorial disagreements, sporting events that got out of hand. We learned to treat warfare as a controlled activity rather than total destruction." A new voice interrupted their conversation. "Admiral Kwon, we have an incoming transmission from Earth. Priority. Diplomatic." The holographic display activated, showing an imposing figure in formal robes. Admiral Vextar recognized the supreme authority in his bearing. "This is Emperor Zixthul, ruler of the Galactic Empire. I demand to speak with whoever is responsible for attacking my fleet." Admiral Kwon stood and straightened her uniform. "Your Imperial Majesty, I am Admiral Kwon of the Human Galactic Relations Department. There has been no attack on your fleet. My ships have been disabled. My admiral reports that human vessels used non-lethal defensive measures," Admiral Kwon interrupted politely. "Your fleet fired first. We simply protected ourselves. Emperor Zixthul paused, clearly not expecting this response. You protected yourselves? Against the Third Conquest Fleet? Yes, Your Majesty. Though I should mention that your Admiral and General are currently our guests aboard the New Horizon. They seem quite comfortable. As in, the Emperor stared at Admiral Vextar, who waved awkwardly from his chair. We are learning about human culture, Your Imperial Majesty. Learning about their culture? Dr. Park leaned into the transmission range. Your Majesty, we're discussing the psychological factors that drive imperial expansion. Fascinating subject. Your empire displays classic symptoms of species-wide insecurity, combined with resource anxiety. Species-wide insecurity? The Emperor's voice rose dangerously. Perfectly normal, Doctor, Park assured him. Most civilizations go through this phase. The need to prove superiority by conquering others usually stems from fear of being conquered themselves. Very common psychological response. Are you analyzing me? Analyzing your civilization, Admiral Quan corrected, and offering assistance. Assistance? Emperor Zixthul looked confused. What kind of assistance? Therapy. Primarily. Doctor, Park said seriously. Your empire shows clear signs of collective aggression disorder. But it's treatable. We've helped several species work through similar issues. You want to give my empire therapy? Among other things, Admiral Quan said. Cultural exchange programs, conflict resolution training, alternative outlets for competitive instincts. We find that aggressive species often just need better hobbies. Better hobbies? Competitive sports, collaborative engineering projects, artistic competitions, Dr. Park listed. Much more satisfying than conquest. And nobody gets hurt. Emperor Zixthul sat silent for several long moments. You are suggesting that the greatest military force in galactic history needs hobbies? And maybe some anger management classes, Dr. Park added helpfully. I've prepared a preliminary treatment plan. If you're interested. Admiral Vextar watched his Emperor's face cycle through several expressions: rage, confusion, disbelief, and finally something that looked almost like relief. Treatment plan? The Emperor said quietly. Completely voluntary, Admiral Quan assured him. We're not here to conquer anyone. We just think the galaxy would be more pleasant if everyone got along better. You want us to get along? Why not? Dr. Park asked. Conquest is exhausting. All that resource management, dealing with rebellions, maintaining fear-based control systems. Wouldn't you prefer to spend your time on something more enjoyable? Emperor Zixthul looked at Admiral Vextar. Vextar, are they serious? I believe they are, Your Majesty, Admiral Vextar replied. And to be honest, they make some valid points. The Emperor of 1,000 Worlds sat back in his throne, looking suddenly very tired. 6 months later, Ambassador Kethvar stood in the main conference hall of New Geneva Station, watching representatives from dozens of species work together on infrastructure projects. Where once the Third Conquest Fleet had spread fear across 3 galaxy arms, now former Imperial officers managed relief operations and construction crews. Remarkable, Kethvar said to Director Eun-ji Kim of the Human Galactic Relations Department. When you first told me humans could reform the Empire, I thought you were insane. Director Kim smiled while reviewing progress reports on her tablet. We learned a long time ago that most bullies are just scared people looking for purpose. The Empire needed better direction, not destruction. At a nearby table, former Admiral Vextar was explaining asteroid mining techniques to a group of Zephyrian engineers. His Imperial uniform had been replaced with the practical jumpsuit of a civilian construction coordinator, and he seemed genuinely happy for the first time in decades. The new gravitational extractors can process an entire asteroid field in 3 weeks, Vextar was saying enthusiastically. Much more efficient than the old planet-cracking methods, and nobody gets hurt. Admiral Vextar seems to have found his calling, Kethvar observed. He always had excellent organizational skills, Director Kim replied. He just needed to apply them to building things instead of breaking them. Ambassador Jin Woo Lee approached their table, carrying reports from across the former Empire territories. The latest updates from the outer systems. The Kepler reconstruction is ahead of schedule, and the Rigel Cultural Exchange Program has exceeded all expectations. And the former Emperor? Kethvar asked. Coordinator Zixthul is doing very well, Lee replied. His trade route optimization project has increased galactic commerce by 30%. He sent a formal thank you message to Earth yesterday. GN quote. A thank you message? He admitted that conquest was exhausting, and he's much happier managing economic development, Director Kim explained. Turns out he has a real talent for logistics. Dr. Sung-Ho Park joined them, carrying a thick research report. The psychological analysis of the transformation is fascinating. The Empire's aggressive behavior was largely driven by resource insecurity and fear of being conquered. Once we addressed those underlying anxieties, the aggressive impulses naturally diminished. You make it sound simple, Kethvar said. Most conflict resolution is simple in principle. Dr. Park replied. The difficult part is getting everyone to stop fighting long enough to have a conversation. Hence the defensive technology, Director Kim added. Hard to have meaningful discussions when someone is shooting at you. General Mordak, now wearing the simple green uniform of the Galactic Reconstruction Corps, approached their table with visible excitement. Director Kim, the Andromeda Restoration Project is complete. The crystal cities have been rebuilt, and they're more beautiful than ever. Excellent work, General, Director Kim said. How are your people adapting to construction work? They love it. Mordak replied with genuine enthusiasm. Building things is much more satisfying than destroying them. Who would have thought? And most humans, Dr. Park said with a grin. We figured that out a few centuries ago. Across the hall, children from a dozen different species played together while their parents worked on joint engineering projects. Former Imperial soldiers helped Zephyrian teachers set up educational programs. The contrast with 6 months earlier was almost impossible to believe. Dr. Park, Kethvar said thoughtfully, when I first met your people, I warned you that the Empire was unstoppable. How did you know you could change them? Dr. Park considered the question carefully. We didn't know for certain, but we had studied enough civilizations to recognize the pattern. Aggressive expansion phases are usually temporary. Most species grow out of them once their basic security needs are met. And if you had been wrong, then we would have had to use more direct methods, Director Kim replied calmly. But we prefer rehabilitation to elimination when possible. More direct methods? Kethvar asked nervously. Let's just say our defensive technology has some offensive applications, Dr. Park explained. But we save those for actual threats. What do you consider actual threats? Director Kim pulled up a star chart on her tablet. Natural disasters, rogue artificial intelligences, species that prove genuinely incapable of peaceful coexistence. Fortunately, truly irredeemable civilizations are quite rare. Ambassador Lee checked his chronometer. The ceremony should be starting soon. Shall we head to the main auditorium? They walked through corridors filled with beings who had once been mortal enemies, now working together on projects that benefited everyone. The transformation was so complete that it was easy to forget the fear and destruction that had preceded it. In the main auditorium, Coordinator Zixthul stood at the podium, addressing the assembled representatives of the Galactic Community Council. He no longer wore the elaborate robes of imperial authority, instead choosing the simple blue uniform of the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. 6 months ago, the Third Conquest Fleet encountered human ships in what we assumed would be another routine conquest. Zixthul began. Instead, we discovered something we had never experienced before: beings who refused to play the role of victim. The audience, which included many species who had suffered under imperial rule, listened with remarkable attention and respect. The humans showed us that our aggression was not strength but weakness. Our need to dominate others came from our own insecurity and fear. They offered us something no one had ever offered the Empire before: genuine partnership instead of submission. Zixthul paused, looking out at the diverse assembly. Today marks the official establishment of the Galactic Community Council, dedicated to mutual aid, peaceful conflict resolution, and collaborative development. What was once the Galactic Empire is now the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. The applause was thunderous and sustained. Kethvar found himself clapping alongside former Imperial officers, all celebrating the transformation of their corner of the galaxy from a region of fear into a community of hope. After the ceremony, Kethvar approached Captain Minjun Park, who was talking with a group of young beings from various species, children who would grow up in a galaxy where cooperation was normal rather than revolutionary. "Captain," Kethvar said, "I have one final question." "Of course, Ambassador. That first day, when I warned you about the Empire's power and urged you to flee, you said you would look into it. Did you already know you could defeat them?" Captain Park smiled, watching the children play a game that seemed to involve building something together rather than competing against each other. "Ambassador, we didn't defeat the Empire. We helped them defeat their own fear. There's a difference. And that's very human, isn't it?" "I suppose it is," Park agreed. "We learned a long time ago that the best way to handle a bully is to help them figure out why they're angry in the first place. And if that doesn't work," Captain Park's expression became more serious, "then you make sure they can't hurt anyone else while you work on the problem. But it usually works. Most beings want to be part of something positive. They just need to be shown how." As the evening continued, Kethvar watched humans and former Imperial citizens working together on plans for new colonies, trade routes, and cultural exchange programs. The galaxy had become a fundamentally different place in just 6 months, transformed not by superior firepower, but by superior wisdom. And in the end, that was the most human thing of all.